Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel and welcome to another Books Beside My Bed video. I think this might be the second last one for the year because I think this is edition 51. I do keep track of these things. I know it's weird, just like I keep track of pages and things like that. I can't help myself, but I had a really good reading week. This is my wrap up for the Christmas at Hogwarts Magical Readathon, which technically I had another week to finish, but I finished it this week because why not? This is my reading week from the 15th until the 22nd of December. I read 7 books this week. I read a total of 2,376 pages and my yearly reading total is up to 263 books. I'm 3 books away from beating last year's reading record for myself. So I think I'm going to get there because I've still got, at least a week and a half, 2 weeks to go. So I'm sure I can do it. The first book that I completed this week was Spellbinder by Sebastian D. Castell. This is a 2018 release from Hotkey and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I was also sent this for review from Alan and Unwin, so thank you very much to them because I adore this series. This is book 4 in the Spellbinder series and it follows Callan, who has been exiled from his people because he bears the Shadow Black, and his people are mages and they work magic, but his magic has been bound as a result of these black markings on his face that people believe that he is cursed and he is going to turn into a monster if he has access to magic. Obviously, being book 4, it's a little bit hard to talk about the story, except to say that in this story, Callan finds himself on his own now, and most of his regular allies are not around him, so he has to make decisions himself and he has to grow as a person and learn how to deal with situations on his own. And he does that really well because he's not afraid now to take chances and to take risks and to do something that he believes is the right thing. Quite often he finds himself getting into a lot of trouble as a result of it, but he learns from the mistakes that he makes as well, which I thought was really, really nice. And it was nice to see him having to deal with things on his own and to accept that he is capable of making decisions and of protecting himself. So I really love this series. I love how the entire series has these gorgeous playing card design covers and they just look amazing together. So if you haven't picked up this series, I highly recommend it. I should say for the Magical Readathon, this was the book to finish your coursework, to finish a book that you were currently reading. The second challenge for the Magical Readathon for me, was to help Hagrid decorate the tree, which was to read a book with gold detailing. For that, I read Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow by Jessica Townsend. This is a 2018 release from Hachette and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It is the second book in the Nevermore series, and obviously it's going to be a little bit hard to talk about the summary of it, except to say that this is a really wonderful middle grade series with an awesome world, really wonderful characters, and I love the interplay between all of them. So in this particular book, Morrigan Crow is now a member of the Wondrous Society, and as such she begins her training. And it's a bit like a magical training school, and there are 2 really creepy characters who control the students and their movements and their classes within the Wondrous Society, and I just loved it. It was really fun to see Morrigan have to deal with everything that happened and everything she found out at the end of the first book and how that impacts her relationship with other people in this particular book. One thing I really loved about the story is that we get to start exploring Nevermore in more detail, and as Morrigan begins to explore the streets and places, we find out more about this really amazing city and how if you turn down some alleyways you can find yourself in really dire straits because magic has infiltrated parts of the city and does unexpected things, which I thought was a really interesting and fun way to explore the city. So I highly recommend this series. It's really fun. I'm sorry I can't talk more about the plot, but I don't want to give away spoilers because it's well worth reading for yourself. The third challenge for me for the Magical Readathon was to travel to the 3 Broomsticks and read a book that would only take you an evening. For that, I read The Emperor's Soul by Brandon Sanderson. This is a fantasy novella. It follows a young woman who is a forger and is captured and held in the palace when the Emperor is severely injured and basically won't wake up, and she's about to be hanged until the current ruling council decides that they're going to get her to forge the Emperor a new soul so that he can continue to rule. Forgery is considered an abomination by the current ruling faction, and yet they're willing to risk it in order to bring back their Emperor. This was very poignant. It deals with what does it mean to be human, and it deals with relationships between people and how you can change your opinion on someone even if you disagree with their methods. I really loved this. It was a lot of fun. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was published in 2013 by Galance, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. The fourth Magical Readathon challenge for me was to return to my common room and read a book about friendship. For that, I read How to Train Your Dragon by Cressida Crowell. This is the first book in this particular series, and I do have the entire box set, so I may continue reading it. It was first published in 2003 by Hodder and Stratton, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. It follows Hiccup, who is the heir to the Hooligan tribe, a group of Vikings, and he and his fellow preteens are charged with trying to capture and train their first dragon as part of their coming of age ceremony. Things don't go quite to plan, and Hiccup ends up with this tiny little dragon who has no teeth and is aptly named Toothless, and all sorts of mischief happens as Toothless is rather stubborn and doesn't really want to listen to Hiccup. But in the end, there is sort of a grudging respect that is formed, and I really enjoyed it. It was good fun. I love all the dragon stuff, and now I get to watch the movie because I have read the book, and that makes me so happy. The fifth book I read for the readathon was for the challenge Christmas Knitted Sweater, or Molly's Knitted Sweater, which was to read a book that features present family members. For that, this book was published in 2017 by Hodder and Stratton, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I am really enjoying Jen Bennett's writing. Night Owls was the first book I read, and I probably didn't appreciate it when I read it, so I'd be really interested to reread it. But between Alex Approximately and Starry Eyes, I am in love with her writing. This is the story of Bailey, who is moving across the country to live with her father. Her parents split a couple of years earlier, I think, and she is a serial evader. She is running away from her mother and her mother's new relationship because there is too much tension there and she can't cope with it. So she decides that the safest option for her is to live with her father. And as a bonus, the boy that she's been chatting to online for the last few years happens to live in the same town as her father, but she doesn't tell the boy that she is coming out there yet. She decides that she wants to try and track him down first to make sure he's not a serial killer or be really old for her, which, you know, fair enough. I can understand that. And while she's there, she gets a job at a local museum. And while she is working at this museum, she butts heads with a teenage boy called Porter, whose family has a long history in the town, and the two have a very antagonistic relationship. The whole thing is just awkward and fun and funny. All the characters have heart, which is what I really loved. So, highly enjoyable read. Can't recommend it highly enough. I want to go back and read Starry Eyes now. The last two books that I read this week were on my Kindle, and they were books 8 and 9 in the Side Changeling series by Nalini Singh. Bonds of Justice was originally published in 2011 by Gallant, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. This particular book I didn't enjoy as much as some of the other ones, and I'll go into why in a minute, but it follows Max, who is a human cop, and Sophia, who is a JSI, who is a member of the Justice Corps, who can basically retrieve memories from the minds of criminals and then project them into the minds of the people prosecuting the case, in effect giving irrefutable evidence against a person. They meet when Sophia is interviewing a sociopath in prison, and he is not a particularly nice man, and comes into play quite a bit later on as another tertiary subplot storyline that's going on. Max and Sophia are bound to work together when Nikita Duncan, who is a counsellor for the Psy, requests their assistance on a case which involves the mysterious death / suicide / murder of multiple members of her company, people who have close ties to her and her business deals. The story itself is fine, and I really do love sort of the elements of the breakdown of the Psy society, because they are currently the ruling class of this world, because they have so much power and they have shut off their emotions, so they're not emotionally attached to things, so they deal with things quite in quite a detached way. And yet now that people are starting to break away from the Psynet and break away from silence, that it's fragmenting the entire foundation of the society, which is really interesting to watch. And you see the shift in the different counselors from the Psy who are realizing, okay, maybe we need to actually start controlling this and allowing it to happen, as well as the group, they're going, no, you can't, and we are going to basically create a hive mind and no one will have any free will whatsoever. So that stuff's really interesting. I did not like Max in this story, which really frustrated me, because I had liked him when he was a side character in one of the other books. I found him way too controlling and way too pushy in this book. Yeah, that's why I didn't rate it higher. On the flip side, Play of Passion, which is book 9 in the series and was also published in 2011 by Gallant, I gave this 4.5 out of 5 stars. It follows 2 members of the Snow Dancer wolf pack, and I'm rapidly realizing how much I love this pack and the stories that come from the wolf pack rather than the leopard pack. So the 2 main characters that we follow are Indigo, who is the dominant female and one of the lieutenants of the pack, and Drew, who is the tracker for the pack and a habitually nice guy. He's honestly the sweetest guy character that I've read in the series. He's super determined to win Indigo over, and so he pursues her quite doggedly, but he's also a really nice guy. He's also in the weird position where his job as the tracker is quite a confronting job for him and for others, because it's his job to track down anyone who goes rogue and, if necessary, to kill them. And so that's sort of why he massively overcompensates with being really nice and very friendly and one of the favourite members of the pack. I mean, the bulk of this story is really about Drew and Indigo's courtship, but the subplot with the Psy is also that Henry Scott and the Pure Psy are moving towards trying to take out many of the prominent players that are standing in the way of silence, and that means going after some of the changeling pack leaders. In this case, it's Hawk in this book. And so there's a whole lot of sort of subterfuge and planting of technology that has potential for very bad things to happen. There's a lot of drama. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I also liked that we got to see more of Judd Lauren in this story, because he was one of my favourite characters, and also we get more hints at Hawk and Sienna, who are the main characters in the next book, and I'm so excited because I really want to read Hawk's story. So those are the books that I read this week. Have you read any of the books that I read this week? If so, let me know in the comments. Otherwise, let me know what you have been reading. What's something that's really stuck out to you this week? I hope that wherever you are in the world, you are having a wonderful day, and I hope that you all have a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate. If not, I hope that you are having an enjoyable holiday season. And until next time, I will catch you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.